So, a couple of things I wanted to sort of go into before we finish this, because we've been doing this for over a year and I have been thoughtful about these things, and I figured it would be a good time to use that. You don't have to stick around, but it might be interesting. Just a few brief comments before we turn out the lights. First off, I want to thank everybody who has participated in IFF in any way, shape, or form. Commentators, Vector has literally been here for like over half of these, because Vector is my go-to when someone cancels. And it turns out commentators are extremely flaky people. Justice Spirit also gets an honorable mention because he's been here for like a third of them at this point. But for real, Doc, V, Justice Spirit, Ice Edge, Chenzo, all have been available whenever needed. They're great folks. They're great people, which is something, you kind of have to, there are some people in this community who are great to hang out with, and there are some people who are great people, and that's a different fucking thing. I'm going to be a little bit blunt about this if you hadn't noticed. I've been drinking. But for real, like, we've had some absolutely bug fuck amazing people come through. The Chai Tech folks have come through. Swagmaster and Puppy Swarm came through one day. Puppy Swarm's been here a bunch of times. Plug, he's going to be doing some cool stuff on Fridays from now on. You shouldn't miss it. The Low Kick crew came through for Resist the Iron Fist. Ham Jams, at this point, I consider a really good friend. I know he's in the audience, and I'm not just saying that because he's there, but dude, you're awesome. Dynamite, also awesome. All of the Low Kick people are cool. Shirtle, he was here earlier. Pun Life, also from Elf, have been invaluable. They're folks that I consider closer friends than most of the people that I've dealt with in all of this stuff. Afronomical came through. It was a pure coincidence that he came in tonight. I was going to say something nice about him beforehand, but Afronomical. Like, Philly has been one of the, we'll get into that in a minute. Kari and Des from Atlanta for Resisting Iron Fist. Bloodhawk came through earlier. Pepper Beef has been through before multiple times. Ryan Hart and Speed Kicks wandering through here when this was a 300 follower stream because we asked them to, and they're good people, was kind of amazing. Right? Like, these folks gave up their Friday nights or sometimes their Saturdays, et cetera, to help entertain the audience, and I personally owe them a lot for it. Stream moderators. I was really glad to see Cyrus come through, because Cyrus has been busy as hell. Cyrus was a lot of why this worked early on, because, like, I've kind of left the tournaments to self-organize themselves under the assumption that all of you are adults and, you can deal with your shit. And then, like, he had some shit happen, like, in his life. He kind of had to step back. Then we run into Nazadan, who I know through other means that are disreputable and we won't get into right this second. And stepped in immediately. The meme smithing has been amazing. So yeah, players. Like, I want to specifically shout out Sloth, Sandwich, and AED. Between the three of them, at least two of them played in every single IFF. Sloth in particular played in 48 of 49 of these, and the one that he missed was for a very good reason. And the thing is, Sloth does not even particularly like playing online, especially in tournaments, but, like, it is a community thing, and participating in a community matters. But more importantly, there are a lot of unsung players who come out in this stuff. We value top players and streamers a lot when they come out, right? Like, I'm not throwing shade when I say that. I consider some of those folks friends. I respect the hell out of a lot of them. But, like, there are a lot of people who just come out and play. The folks that come to mind: Winnie Committee, Forio, AG Raijin, Qthamp, Subtramp, Guitar Legend, Polkabird, Luchachan. There are a ton of more people that I'm not mentioning. PS4 player comes to mind. When Just a Spirit plays and is not, rewarding us all on commentary, right? Like, there are a ton of folks who come through and don't necessarily have any intentions or expectations to place, but they come through to play. And these people come through to play to get better, right? Like, and an event like this depends on that sort of generosity. And I use that word intentionally, and I want you all to think about that. That is, in many ways, a service. They are providing an they are providing entertainment. And realistically, like, I expect to get blown up, right? Like, having Chenzo just, like, absolutely dirt nap me is funny as hell, because I don't care. I don't expect to be good at this game. I am a casual. I just happen to be really good at streaming. But, like, other people, like, want to be good at this game. Well, other people want to care about this. And there is a certain amount of ego destruction that happens when it comes to playing this sort of thing, right? Like these folks take a risk to come and play because they are entertaining an audience. That's not necessarily their reason for doing it. I'm not saying that. But ultimately, that's what it ends up being. And that's really fucking important, because, like, that's a very selfless thing, even if, like, this community is a little weird. Anyway, these folks don't get mentioned a lot, and it's unfortunate because they are the reason the scene works at all. The Starfucker effect is real. It makes everyone think of the top players all of the time. That's, again, not to take anything away from those folks. They have worked incredibly hard to get where they are. But without having a wide array of players of different skill levels, competition turns extremely homogenous very quickly. There's less excitement for top players than everyone else, right? Like, multiple TOs I know are like, the reason this works, the folks that carry this are the people who go 0-2 every week. The effort of everybody else to get better and the participation of everyone else is what makes this all work. There is one unfortunate failure of IFF to me, and this is something that I consider important and is worth mentioning because it's worth thinking about as people in the FGC. There has been an inability to encourage a group of like-minded players to gel. I am becoming of the opinion that too frequent tournaments might be a bad thing, and this is worth thinking about for your locals after COVID. There's real value to focused and targeted improvement. Tournaments are not that. Tournaments are for evaluation. You learn stuff and then you go apply it. If the whole experience that you have is iterated tournaments, learning is basically impossible. And it's just a stressor. It's just going to grind at you. It's going to fuck with your brain. This is something that I have learned because I didn't really take Tekken seriously in any form over the last, 4 years until like the last year or so, okay? Tekken fucks with your brain if you take the evaluation process and do nothing but it. This is one of the reasons I consider IFF to have maybe been a little bit of a failure in some ways. And it's one of the reasons why I'm really glad and really excited that what Chitech is doing is they're going ahead and they're moving more towards stuff like exhibitions for Fridays. And, Ranked Online makes this even more of a disaster, and something like this exhibition sort of setup, or what V does with V Stadium, or what Malik does with Brightest Lights, I think those are the things that actually make you a little bit better. I can't fix this, right? Like, I can't fix this. No one can. But I do kind of wish that most of the sweaty folks in this community would take a step back and maybe go outside. And I'm not saying that as an old fart, though I am. But this is a video game. This is not your life. This is not your profession. Even if you're very, very good at it, you're probably going to end up doing something else. Right? Like, don't take this as fucking seriously as people do. The embarrassment of Tekken Twitter is real. Y'all should shut the hell up. Y'all should get off Twitter because it is worming into your brains. Right? Like, the people who want to get good and the people who are getting incredibly sweaty all the time are absolutely ruining themselves by marinating in that in Twitter. You should all delete your accounts. I'm not even joking about that. It is bad for you. I'm not saying that with the expectation you're going to, but you should at least think about it. Step back. Disconnect. It's a video game. You're going to be okay. Anyway, beyond that, let's get back to something a little more positive. I want to thank my fellow TOs for everything that they are doing in all of this. Chitech taking over Fridays was intentional. I think Tom is the only one doing the work at a high enough level to fill 2 nights. I'm really excited for what he's doing. I'm really excited for the use of Fridays as an exhibition. And I intend to come through to commentate and to play because, 1, I'm bad at Tekken, and 2, as you have seen tonight, I will fuck you all up. I will fuck you all up. I'm not joking about that. I will fucking body you into the next fucking zip code and laugh about it, and you're going to be like, wow, he sucks, and I still lost. It's great. But seriously, shout outs to Afronomical and the Philly crew. The Gulag stuff, is pretty cool. Y'all should play when it's available. Also, I definitely want to shout out Malik and Brightest Lights for Boston again. If you are not watching, that is also on Tuesdays. It's a little awkward that sort of opposes against Chi-Tech, but, y'all have 2 windows. There are also a ton of smaller events that keep plugging away, and we'll get back to that in 1 second. There are too many of them to mention, really, but it's hard not to appreciate them. Outside of Tekken, outside of sort of the Tekken universe, so to speak, I want to shout out Low Kick again, Mr. Jams. I expect to continue to hear from you. There is the absolutely fucking inimitable Vince and his crew, Incendium, up in that frigid white north we pretend is a country. And then, of course, there's Casa and there's Blue Beat here in Boston, Blue Beat here in Boston. I will say again, I mentioned this earlier, but the way that the local community has treated Casa in particular is really regrettable. But the primary reason I will continue doing FGC stuff at all is, and this is kind of a direct list, but it is Michael Dink, it is David Bunch, it is Matt Hogan, and it is Brad Muse. That is the reason that I'm going to continue doing this stuff, is because there are some actually genuinely good people, and I like working with them, and I like doing cool shit with them. That is why I will continue doing this. It is not Tekken, and it is not the general community as a whole. I am indebted to the lot of you, but y'all aren't here, right? And frankly, the Boston scene has a couple of oppositional factors that I'm not thrilled about, but I am convinced that my people are better, and I am convinced that we will demonstrate that we are better. One thing to think about real quick, and I know I am boring the shit out of some of you, but you've probably already left. Either way, you're probably looking for me to throw some shade, so, let's do that. Being pushed online by COVID has made all of us neighbors. Some of us have reacted to that way better than others, okay? The above folks that I mentioned, right? Like Philly, Low Kick, Chi-Tech, a bunch of other folks. I'm not meaning to leave everybody out. I'm just trying to get this done in a reasonable amount of time tonight. Anyway, when I or others reached out, these people wanted to work together. I will also throw some shade at myself, because candidly, Casa came to me very early on and wanted to work together, and I was probably wrong to push that away for a while. I misread David Bunch quite extensively in a way that I have yet to really adequately apologize for. So, when you watch this later, Bunch, thank you. One of the most important things that I have learned over the last year plus is that this is not a zero-sum space. By working together, one party does not lose and the other does not benefit. By working together, everyone actually does benefit. There are plenty of ostensibly community organizations that don't get this. I'm not going to name names on that front, but y'all can fucking read between the lines, right? Because I'll be real. IFF's growth curve was significant. This is going to be the closest thing to bragging that I do this evening. But in March 2020, we were averaging 20 viewers. In June, we were averaging 50 to 60. From November on, we've been averaging over 100. This is not an inconsiderable thing. It's not the biggest thing out there, right? When people side stream our stuff, they sometimes draw more. And I'm well aware of that, believe me. But the reason I mention that is not to brag. It's because from day one, part of the point of IFF has been... it has been that, I've wanted to bring eyes to other stuff. Pretty much from day one in doing all of this, I have been talking to other TOs and trying to get them to tell me when they're going to do stuff. I've been trying to get them to collaborate with me. And there is a real fear among a lot of people that I was just out there to steal their clout, okay? And this is an important thing. There have been a lot of people who've just been like, oh, they didn't say it like this, but you can tell, right? That I'm out there to go steal their viewers. Guys, their viewers are watching my stuff already, right? They don't have the clout to steal. Instead, the entire point from day one was to cross-pollinate, was to get one to look at the other and get their folks to watch the others, because no one is actually in any real fucking competition. It has been, for the entirety of fucking COVID, that these people are just so terrified of losing their 20 viewers on a completely different night that they don't want to work together to make everything better for everybody else. And this is something that has been driving me bug shit insane since day one. And yes, I am ranting. I'm okay with that. Pretty much everyone who is on tonight has heard this rant before. And, like, they can back me up in chat. This is just fucking obvious. This is what normal people fucking think, okay? Like, this isn't crazy. This is just that the FGC is fucking terrified of basically everything. And as an aside, I want to shout out Boone over at Wednesday Night Fights. Because Boone has been an amazing example of not doing this. Boone has been using his platform to raise people up extensively, has been aggressively pushing to get people to give him their stuff so he can be like, hey, go check this out. And using the WNF platform to do that. That is incredible. That is admirable as shit. Boone is cool. And the fact that this many Tekken organizers couldn't fucking get out of their own headspace long enough to collaborate with one another. And some of them, to be clear, again, not going to name names, some of them went ahead and told me I shouldn't be trying to do this because nobody is going to do it, because nobody is trustworthy. Okay? Like, this has been something that I've had bottled up for a while because I didn't want to, slam any doors. But at this point, I realized I don't give a shit. And, like, the fact that there are people actively dissuading other people from building bridges, from collaborating, is worth thinking about really, really hard, okay? Like, I'm not saying that just as, like, this is not really self-indulgent at this point, because I don't care. I'm basically done. My wood shop is done. I'm going to go do really cool woodworking streams. I don't really care about running events. I'm going to keep doing it because it's fun sometimes and because I have friends who can use the help. But, like, I'm not telling you this because I'm trying to draw a paycheck out of this. And that's an important thing. That is an important thing because I think that part of the hesitance and the fear to collaborate comes from the idea that the pie is small, and if you take one thing away from what I'm saying right now, the pie is not small. The pie is controlled. There is a bad tendency in the FGC to simultaneously try to call itself community-driven, but only react to industry output. Okay? The community part is absolutely there. You want to know the best of the FGC? The FGC helped to raise $150,000 for our guy Henny's family after he was killed in a racially motivated incident. That is the best of the FGC. That is something I am indebted to the lot of you for. That is something that I am incredibly proud of in a way that I have trouble coming up with words for. And if you have watched this over the last year, you might recognize that I don't fucking lack for words very often, okay? But the industry, the for-profit part of this, takes so much more than it gives back. It gatekeeps what you see and hear about. And it does so largely to feed itself. And I'm not begrudging any individual in this because people got to eat, but I am begrudging the entire idea of the thing. Esports as a thing is probably antithetical to the idea of a community. It decides what acceptable behavior is regardless of what the community actually feels is true. ICFC has been putting big margin in social media highlights, while over here I'm hearing that my community feels uncomfortable and unsafe with him participating because of his behavior. The for-profit part of this cloaks itself in this secure the bagged rhetoric that seems to align itself with the players. It's not. It's treating you like temporarily embarrassed millionaires. It isn't honest. You have very little actually in common with these industry folks. You generally don't. And it isn't something that I expect to change because I said so. But, like, I don't fucking know, right? Like, I would entreat everybody to treat more critically what you are hearing from the industry side of things, because they are out to make a buck off of you. And I'm not begrudging any individual for doing that. But I am saying that the whole thing is probably deleterious to the things that actually make a community a community. It is probably bad for the whole FGC as fighting game community and not fighting game consumers that these folks exist to tell you this stuff, right? Like, all right, I'm gonna fuck it. I don't care. We'll get into why I don't care in a moment. Trust me, I'm not done. But like, you might have noticed that a couple weeks ago now, I was like, hey, maybe, these dojos, people are being paid to do this, and maybe you should potentially take a look at how and, if they are paying it forward adequately. Because like the narrative that came out as far as the industry people was concerned is, oh, you don't want to see TOs make money. Well, I mean, I don't. I've spent over $3,000 doing this after you take out all of the Patreon and all of the money that came out of Twitch. I've spent about $3,000 over the last year doing it because I think it should exist. And I am very privileged in the fact that I'm able to do that. Don't get me wrong. That is the fact that I work in software and I don't care, right? Like, this basically replaced me spending money at the bar on Friday nights. And I am very happy to have done it. I did it very gladly. But what you saw was a bunch of people being like, oh, you don't want TOs to make money. And then you saw their simps going on about, oh, look at this, bragging about not making money. That's because it's community service. That's what this was. That's what this is. This is community service. This is not fucking trying to make money. I am not trying to make a company out of this because I have a real job and I have a life. And I think people should. I think this stuff is better done as community engagement and self-organization. I think we are all better off when we work together to do this stuff instead of expecting other people to do it for us. And you know what? Turns out this turned into a bit of a political speech, didn't it? Anyway, look, this stuff is better when we work together. This stuff is better when we try. This stuff is better when people bring their own setups and when they work together and when they have some investment in their local community. This stuff is not better when we sit there and wait for 7 people to tell us who is cool and what is cool. And I feel very strongly that that is the model that industry wants, as opposed to the model that would benefit for community. And I get why they do it. I do not begrudge any one person for it. But I think the economic incentives and I think the baseline incentives of doing all of this is an absolute fucking disaster for anything that wants to call itself a community. So I'd like you to roll that around in your head for a second. There are a lot of great things about the community. There are a lot of great things about the FGC and about the Tekken community in general, right? Like, you have met many of my friends over all of this. The Tekken community is absolutely and without question filled with excellent people. And it is such in spite of and not because of Bandai Namco's behavior. And there's one thing in particular I want to call out. I want to call out the way that they've treated Arya, the way that they've treated that blasted salami, as mind-bogglingly stupid. Arya knows what time it is. Arya does incredibly detailed and good work. And they have ignored him and they have excluded him at every turn in ways that are absolutely harmful to the game and to the community at large. I know he's looking at other games. And to be clear, there's stuff that he talked about this on stream the other day. I will probably put this on Twitter and I will probably link that because it's worth watching. It's about an hour of him absolutely going off. It's one of the most cathartic things I've ever seen. And one of the reasons why I'm telling you this as flatly as possible. He was disrespected by the Tekken establishment in ways that, frankly, the fact that he continued to try is impressive and possibly foolish. And I don't say that, lightly, right? Like, we had Aryan. That was just me just asking him because at this point we're not friends, but I respect the guy a lot. And I think he does some of the most amazing shit out there. I know he's looking at other games now, and I am personally excited to learn more from him there because he's one of the main reasons I started playing Tekken again. I stopped playing Tekken after Tekken 5, really. I've never touched DR in my life. I stopped playing Tekken after Tekken 5, and I basically picked up Tekken 7 because he made it look approachable and sane. And because he did that, I picked the game back up. And because I picked the game back up, this happened. Okay? So, like, there are some absolute insane knock-on effects to the stuff that Arya has done. And it seems by all accounts that they just treat him as just another uppity YouTuber. And that's kind of fucked up. Worth thinking about the next time you give them money. And to be clear, when I'm saying this, that is kind of me pretty self-consciously nailing some doors closed. Because I don't care. I think community matters, and I don't really give a shit about the rest of them. It is worth thinking about that soberly. And I hope that you do. So I am going to wrap that up here. I like how we lost all of 15 viewers during that rant because I think occasionally I have something useful to say. So, thank you all for putting up with me. I will wrap that here. IFF has been fun. I have learned a lot, and I hope you all have enjoyed it as much as I have. If it's not obvious, I take this stuff very seriously because there are a few hobbies that are worth doing that are not taken seriously, right? Like, if you're going to do something, show the fuck up. And I like to think that we did. I don't think it is an overly charitable description to say that this has been competitive with the best stuff that has happened during COVID. And I am lucky in the fact that was uniquely positioned to do that. A lot of that is the fact that I do this for a living. Not this, obviously, but I do video for a living. I am a computer programmer. I am a software developer. The fact that I am able to do this all by myself is largely the fact that I have an army of robots you all don't see doing it for me. But anyway, this is not goodbye, right? Y'all know me at this point. To quote one of my favorite people on the internet, this isn't goodbye, but it is see you later. I intend to keep streaming chill games when I can. I still have a number of Tekken events in the pipeline. We are looking at doing something next weekend. And, of course, we have New England Reloaded in July. The current plan, and I might be talking out of school a little bit, but if I am, I'm going to blame it on the booze, is to run it out of my house. Is to run it, on multiple people's channels, but to run it off of my stack in my house. So the fact that this can be done by other people will be made very apparent to people. I'm going to keep playing Dragon Quest next week because I really like that game. I would love to see you all drop by, so keep an eye on your notifications and stuff. Drop by whenever you have a spare minute. I am indebted to all of you for coming along for this incredibly weird ride. This has been the weirdest year of my life. I'm sure it's been the weirdest year of your life, too. But, without tooting my own horn, most of you, except for, Dank, I see you in there, and I see Dan, have not built whatever the shit this is. So, I would love to see you all again. Whether or not it's Tekken, I would love to see you all again. But that's all I have for today. So, thank you, and good night. We're going to go send you over to some friends now. Hang out for a sec.